guys, in this week's episode on the Redeemed Marriage, we are going to be talking about how marriage is not a fairy tale. So stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Rusty.
And I'm Heather.
We're the Bryants with Three Strands Marriage Ministry, and this is the Redeemed Marriage Video Podcast.
We are here to encourage healthy marriages, strengthen wounded marriages, and begin the process of restoration to broken marriages.
We're not licensed counselors, however, we are a redeemed couple that loves the Lord and wants to help you journey through this messy, challenging, and fun part of life called marriage. All right, guys, we're excited about another episode of the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. And so today, Heather chose the topic.
I did.
Mainly because I talked too much. I talked too much.
I want to talk this time just a little bit more. I did choose the topic. I chose the topic of that marriage is not a fairy tale. I know that doesn't come as a surprise to many of you, but just to hear somebody else say those words, I think is just so very important. Because I think we all have this idea of what marriage is going to be like, especially us girls.
So when you say that marriage is not a fairy tale, I agree. Mm-hmm. What is the typical...
So quickly you agreed.
I agree. So what is the typical woman? Yeah. What is the fairy tale about marriage that's like what is it for a typical woman?
Okay, so I can speak what I think, and
you're
from what
not a typical woman, but speak as if you were a typical woman.
Yes, and from people that I've heard from.
Okay.
So for me, I can remember being really little and thinking about what my wedding would be like. You see these weddings on TV, and you hear about all these wonderful weddings, and you just think, oh, I'm gonna have this, and this. And then you get into what married life is gonna be like. And for me, the picture I had of that was two things. One is the picture that my parents gave me, which was always a beautiful picture of what marriage should be. I grew up in a Christian home, and those values were instilled in me from a very young age, that it was one man, one woman for life. And there was no other option but that. So I had that presented to me. And then also from movies, and that's where the danger came in. So I had from movies, what the man and woman, and I must say I'm a Hallmark movie girl. And those are always ending beautifully with the, perfect man, perfect woman.
But they always just twist it up, and you never know what's going to happen.
Anyway, so we have that aspect. And then we also have the aspect that, as like in my family, my parents were always so good about not letting us see them fuss or argue or disagree about money or any of those things. And so I just thought that marriage was perfect. So when we had our very first disagreement, I thought something was wrong. I thought, I don't have the right kind of marriage, or I did something wrong. I did something poorly. We're not going to make it all from just one little fight.
Okay, so you unpacked some of it, but you didn't really unpack. You unpacked the answer to the question, but you didn't really answer the question. Like, what's the fairy tale? Like, What is it that the ladies are like, oh my goodness, this is what marriage is going to be like? You kind of told some of, I guess, what we come in, how two people come together in a marriage with completely different expectations and backgrounds and history and traditions and all those kind of things. But like, what's the fairy tale? Like, what are we supposed to be living up to?
Well, I think that we have an unrealistic expectation of what marriage is supposed to be like. So I feel like when I say all the things that we wish we had, I feel bad about saying those because I know it's not reality and I know that it's unrealistic expectations. But for someone who may not know that they're unrealistic expectations, I think that we want to be treated like a princess. We want to be rescued. We want to be always loved and adored and waited on, and that y'all need us, and that we can fulfill your every desire and your every dream. And because that's how it is in the movies.
Should we just cut and go to a Hallmark movie right now?
Yes. Let's do that.
So basically, if we watch a Hallmark movie, we can see what the fairy tale for a woman is supposed to be. Okay, so I guess actually the man has a fairy tale as well.
Really? For real?
So the fairy tale for the man,
Julia Roberts?
I mean, we're just gonna throw it out here as blunt as we can.
Okay.
Sex every day and twice on Sundays. And I actually have heard that somewhere. It was an anonymous quote, and it's not my quote. Although I'm not saying that wasn't my fairy tale. It just, that's an anonymous quote that's out there. So,
that's fair.
So that's one thing. But, and I don't want to say I'm just kidding, because I'm really not kidding when I say that. But I think that there's also, for a guy, there's this growing up of being, of like having companionship, like guys, like, you know, we get it's kind of this brotherhood, and we get close, and we have these friends, we go through college, you got these guys that you watch sports with, and you hang out with, and you go and do things, you know, with, and, you know, some people are hunters and fishers, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And even though we still want that with our guy friends, when we get married, we want a wife that respects that and is like, oh, go enjoy that. We actually want that with our wife. And so we think, man, we're gonna watch SEC football together, which you do. But for most people, it is not like that. Like, you know, it's like we're gonna get married, and all of a sudden, my hobbies are gonna be your hobbies, and you're gonna just want to do whatever I want to do, which includes the first thing that I said. So yeah, there's this fairy tale, right, even for the guys. So before we got married, like, what was the thing that you were looking forward to and most excited about? Like, you know, you've kind of said what a girl's fairy tale is, but like, you know, we dated for a long time.
We did.
So
yeah. I think the biggest difference in going from a dating relationship to a marriage relationship, besides, of course, the intimacy of that, is just not having to say goodbye. You know, like we would go out on a date, and we would have a nice dinner and come back and watch a movie or whatever, and then it was like, okay, bye. So just the constant being with you and not having to say goodbye. Like, when we're done with the movie, we just go to bed. We don't have to see you tomorrow. That was pretty exciting for me, the thing I looked forward to. So
did that turn out to be as awesome as you thought it was going to be?
It really did.
Okay.
It really did. Because I liked being with you and spending time with you. I just enjoyed the, you know, like what you said, companionship. I enjoyed being with you that much, and not having to say goodbye. So
you're saying we have a fairy tale marriage. Okay, so
that aspect was great.
When did you realize that the fairy tale was, I'm not going to say the fairy tale was over, just when did you realize that marriage was not a fairy tale? Well,
and see, for me, that's really hard, because that's a complicated question.
Okay.
Because I thought for so long that we were supposed to be in a fairy tale and something was wrong because it wasn't.
Okay.
So I thought something was wrong with our marriage because I wasn't feeling that fairy tale feeling. Like I wasn't, that movie, Jerry Maguire,
Yep.
and he's like, I don't know exactly what happened, but he's talking to his woman.
You just heard about this
from
somewhere.
No, I've seen it. And he says, "You complete me."
Right.
And it's Tom Cruise, and I mean, you want your man to be like, "You complete me." And
you like Tom Cruise?
No, I'm just saying. Look, don't get me started on Meg Ryan. Anyway, I just think that's like we had this desire for a man that we could be that for, that we could complete, and that they complete us, and that we can't be without each other, and our love is complete in that. Okay, so for me, because you didn't complete me, which I later learned is not your job, I felt like something was wrong. And so then fast forward to me learning so much more about marriage and what your spouse is designed to do, and me knowing that it was not your job to complete me, released me of the disappointment and the expectations not being met of us not having a fairy tale wedding. Or marriage. So I feel like for me, for a long time, I realized it wasn't a fairy tale, but I was disappointed in that. And now I realize it's not a fairy tale, and marriage is hard work, but I'm not disappointed in that. It's just, that's how God created it to be, for us to work hard for our marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, and so kind of going back to what you were talking about at the beginning, like I feel like the reason why it's not a fairy tale, and maybe this is where we can move a little bit into, like hopefully everybody gives themselves a break, like give yourself a break, because marriage is really hard.
It is.
And it takes a lot of work. It's not a fairy tale. But it can be such an incredible thing. But I really think that part of the reason why it's so hard is because you have, no matter how in love you are and how perfect you think you are for each other, you have two completely different families basically being joined. Whether your example and your family life was good or bad, whatever, you come in with these preconceived ideas, you come in with religious beliefs, or maybe no religious beliefs, and the other one does. You come in with just traditions and just history, and you talk about, I like to remember them by F's, but you got faith that plays a big part in it, because it could be two different. You've got feelings, which is, what did you see? What kind of feelings were expressed in your home? Was love expressed by mom and dad? Did you even see feelings being expressed? Sure. And then you got fights. Like, did you know it was okay to fight, or did you never see your parents fight?
Right.
And then, holy cow, finances. Like, I kind of think about the F's when I think about that, but those four things. But like, you just come in with all these different things, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's go get married, and everything's gonna work itself out.
Right.
And it just doesn't.
Yeah. And on top of that, you have a sinner and a sinner who are trying to come together and make a perfect marriage, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Two people living in the flesh for their own fleshly desires can't make a perfect marriage without a lot of work.
Yeah. So I think when you first mentioned to me that you wanted to do this particular podcast or video podcast on this subject, it was really because you just wanted the people that were listening to be okay with the fact that they're not okay.
No, absolutely. And that they're not alone.
That they're not alone. That was the one thing that you kept saying to me. And it's not that it's okay to not be okay and don't try to improve, or it's not that. It's just, you almost have to give yourself a break, realizing it's not a fairy tale. It's not easy. It takes hard work. And it takes hard work every single day. I mean, like I think a good example of that, we were having this conversation the other day, and I actually told you that every morning I wake up and I pray that I will be able to serve you and serve my family, so our boys, without wanting anything in return.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times we do things expecting something.
Sure.
Like whatever it may be. Maybe we're expecting something physically. Maybe we're expecting just the old pat on the back. You're the best. But I know, like I literally know that every single morning I have to work at being a husband, and that's, I want to serve. I want, and I don't want to expect anything in return. It's just because I want to show you how much I love you, and that's it. So I know that it's really, really hard. Marriage is hard. So what are some things, as we're telling people, you're not alone, we all go through it. You can look at even our marriage. Like, we struggle with things every single day. So it's something that we're working on every single day.
Yeah.
So even 9.5 years after a marriage crisis, where we're up here telling people, look at us, you've got hope, you've got hope. Right. It's still hard.
Yeah.
So I guess from your perspective, what would be just something that you would say to encourage people? Like, what are some steps? Like, what do you do? Like, yeah.
As far as working to make your marriage work?
Yeah, or how do you rest knowing that it's okay to not be okay? Like, yeah, I don't really know what I'm asking you, but
let me see if I can answer that.
Answer my question. Read my mind, because that's what a fairy tale marriage is about.
That's right, just reading your mind.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to emphasize the fact that you're not alone. I really have a heart for marriages because I think in our world and in our society, it's very easy to put on a mask and pretend that you're okay. With Instagram and Facebook, all the social media things, it's so easy to have this image of the perfect marriage and the perfect family. And we've even talked to people, and we probably were those people who on Facebook or whatever, they look perfect. And then you get in behind the scenes and it's like, they are a mess, And so people are a mess. And so when you are seeing my marriage is not a fairy tale and it does take work, everybody's does. Everybody's marriage takes work. So for me, I think that it's very, very important, first of all, just to acknowledge that you're not alone and to reach out for help. Because I do know that you can always find somebody that will tell you what you want to hear. You can always find somebody that says, girl, you don't deserve that. You don't, you shouldn't be with somebody that treats you like that. You need to be with somebody who blah, 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 blah. Or you might be attracted to someone else that you think, oh, well, if I was married to him, it would be different. He would do this different, or I bet he would treat me better, that type thing. So just finding somebody that can speak truth into your life about marriage and what's honoring to God in a marriage, I think would be really, really important. And this may be another whole topic, but just knowing that your husband or wife was not made to complete you. That there's only one person who can fill that void, and that is your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And if you try to fill that spot with your husband, or wife, it's going to be constant disappointment.
Yeah, and I do think that that's something that we need to revisit at some point, where we can just talk about what does it mean, to make sure that Christ is the center of your own life, so that you're giving your spouse the overflow.
That's right.
And we talk about that a lot, I know. But what I think, as we just kind of wrap this up, what I really want people to understand is, you go into marriage, you think it's a fairy tale, and pretty quickly you find out it is not a fairy tale. And what so many people do is they start looking for other things to make them happy, other people to make them happy. But where it really kind of gets down to it is where they just finally say, well, this isn't working, so I just want out of this. And so, I think it's just natural that we just want people to understand it's hard, but the beauty of it is that it's hard. And like it just wouldn't be fun if it was just simple. I mean, it's fun to work at your marriage. And so, whatever it is that you're facing, like Heather said, find somebody that you can confide in, contact us, and let us journey with you if that's something that's needed. So, anything else you can think of?
I don't think so for this one, because I'll get off into something else.
Yeah.
And I bet this was longer than the last one because I talked.
Probably so. But as always, we want to remind you, you can watch these video podcasts on Facebook.
Yep.
And so make sure you like that on Facebook. Hit that like button. Give us some comments. And we read the comments. Also on Instagram. And we also opened up a YouTube channel.
Not TikTok yet.
Nope, not TikTok. We opened up this YouTube channel. So you can find us on 3 Strands Marriage Ministry. And go to that YouTube page and our YouTube channel and subscribe, because that way whenever we put these out, you'll get a notification on that. So but hey, we are grateful that you're watching. Thank you for the comments that we've gotten on social media and just in person as well. It's a lot of fun doing this, but more than that, we just hope that it's helpful. So until next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.